In 2020, Steve from Minecraft got into Smash. It was one of the craziest things that I've ever seen from a video game, and a lot of people felt the same way. Personally, before Steve got in, I was a little burnt out on Smash speculation, but the reveal of Steve really reeled me back in. The period from Steve's reveal to Sephiroth's reveal was actually one of the most interesting and hectic times for Smash speculation during Ultimate. And during that time period, I remember one character being brought up constantly. That character was Jonesy. So, Steve was kind of an unprecedented character for Smash, since he's really the only character they've added who was made into an icon by the mainstream internet. Obviously, there have been other Smash characters created after the internet was created. There's tons of them actually. But Steve and Minecraft is the only one that really feels specifically tied to internet trends. Steve's reveal had a lot of people speculating about characters in a similar category. The two I remember hearing about the most were some kind of Among Us character. It was a very popular game in 2020. And the other one was, of course, Jonesy. At the time, I had never actually played Fortnite. And I just remembered thinking, based on what I know about Fortnite, would this work? It's been like 5 years. Smash Ultimate is done, but most importantly, I've actually played Fortnite now. Too much of it. And I think I'm qualified to answer the question, would Fortnite even work in Smash? So first of all, when you think of hypothetically representing a game in Smash, the first thing you have to think of is, what character is the best one to do? The Fortnite character I always see people bring up is Jonesy, so he must be a pretty significant part of the game, right? What if I told you I've played a ton of Fortnite, and I've barely even seen this guy in the game? You may ask, how could this be? Isn't he the default skin in the game? And the answer is no, he's really not. In Fortnite, if you don't own any other skins, the game randomly picks one of 14 different default skins. Jonesy is one of them. Apparently they did change this recently and you can choose which one you use now, but that was not the case until very recently. Another thing though, the game doesn't always load the actual skin every player in a game is using. Instead it uses one of the default skins as a stand-in. Which one does it use? Not Jonesy. Is Jonesy important to the lore of Fortnite though? You might think so, given that there's a character who looks like Jonesy and is also named Jonesy, but he's not Jonesy apparently. Anyhow, Fortnite's lore is not a major part of the game. Every once in a while, there are these cutscenes that don't load, and by every once in a while, I mean like once a month maybe. So basically the point that I'm finding myself at is that if we got one of the default skins, it wouldn't be Jonesy, it should be this bastard. This character, whose name is Ramirez, apparently, the game does not tell you that, but she's the actual default skin. And apparently was also meant to be the main character of the game. And the big thing is the fact that I've actually seen her in the cartoonish amount of time I've spent playing this game. And if you don't want to do one of the boring default skins, you're out of luck, because every other notable non-crossover skin in Fortnite was exclusive to a battle pass, which means if you didn't get it when it first came out, you can never get it, ever. Do I need to explain why a character that vanishes from existence after 2 months is a bad choice for Smash? But what about maybe the Supply Llama? I remember back when Fortnite was new, this guy was everywhere. Basically the face of the game. Perfect choice, right? I've never seen these things in the game a single time because they removed them. This is actually the unspoken issue with having Fortnite representation in Smash. Fortnite has basically zero consistency. The skins available change constantly. The locations you can go to change constantly. The gameplay itself changes constantly. Basically, whatever Fortnite representation you could attempt to do would already be outdated by the time it actually got implemented into the game. So overall, the conclusion I've come to is that Fortnite wouldn't work in Smash on a purely aesthetic level. But what about gameplay? Fortnite's character designs and environment might not make total sense to include, but could the moveset be neat? More recent Smash characters are designed to truly feel like that character, and play similarly to how they do in their home game. But how do you do that with Fortnite? Fortnite's gameplay is essentially running around, picking things up off the ground when you find them, switching out your gear for better gear as you go, and also getting into incomprehensible scrambles whenever you see another player. And you can also build stuff. So how could these mechanics work in Smash? Well, interestingly, the way building works in Smash with Steve is basically exactly how building works in Fortnite. And it would work basically perfectly if not for the fact that Steve already does it. Because we don't want to just steal Steve's exact character gimmick. I think building could be a really cool aesthetic thing for a Fortnite character where it's just an animation rather than an actual gameplay mechanic. Like if Up B had the character build stairs as they walked up them, and previous pieces would break as if another player had shot them. As for the picking things up mechanic, we can't really actually have things scattered around the stage for the character to pick up, because that's how items already work in Smash. But I feel like to represent Fortnite's gameplay, you would really want to somehow represent the RNG of getting gear and switching it out for better gear. Here's what I came up with. So for most of the characters' attacks, they would use pretty average gear, but one move, let's say down B, lets them pick a random piece of gear off the ground, and it might be better than what you have, but it also might be worse than what you have. You'll be able to tell by the color like in actual Fortnite. I think that could be a really fun mechanic that would kind of give a whole nother layer of strategy to a fight involving the character. So yeah, I think in terms of moveset, a Fortnite character could work in Smash and could also be really cool. This brings us to the final factor. Does Fortnite deserve to have a character in Smash? It's really pretty subjective, so keep in mind this is just my personal opinion. I think there are some issues with just the type of game that Fortnite is. I already mentioned that it has no consistency whatsoever, but also its continued popularity is pretty reliant on crossover content that obviously can't be represented in Smash. And then there's the factor that Fortnite is a 100% online game, which means one day it will go the way of Club Penguin, and that could be a long, long time from now, but still Smash really hasn't had to consider that factor at all in the past. I think it could potentially end up aging really weirdly if it happened. Fortnite isn't really particularly influential or important to video game history either. It didn't invent online multiplayer shooters. Those have been around for a while. I think Doom or Halo would probably be the best way to represent that genre. I would say that Fortnite is generally lacking in the department of iconic characters or iconography that is a really major factor in Smash. I don't really think that Fortnite is the type of game that I would want to have a Smash character. I think it's kind of a dangerous line to cross, but it is very much subjective. So, to answer the question, would Fortnite work in Smash? No.
We got a #1 victory royale. Yeah, Fortnite, we bout to get down. 10 kills on the board right now. Just wiped out Tomato Town. My friend just gone downed. I revived him, now we're heading southbound. Now we're in the Pleasant Park streets. Look at the map, go to the marked sheet. Take me to your Xbox to play Fortnite today. You can take me Moisty Mire, but not Loot Lake. I really love to Chug Jug with you. We can be pro Fortnite gamers.